And we're off.
We're off.
Very patient start from Yale. It seems like they've already picked up maybe half a seat. Again, the parallax as our launch driver drives around gives us a different perspective.
Yeah, and last night in the fourth boat race, Yale got off to a very quick start, had a half a length in a quarter of a mile and a length by 3/4 of a mile. So we're sort of starting to expect this between Harvard and Yale, that the Yale crews are just stronger off the line. But I would say, Andy, in this race, it looks like Harvard slightly about the same cadence, but they are not letting Yale go. In fact, they seem to be right in the thick of it.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect a crew to blast off the line in a 2-mile race and try to dominate in the first minute. Both crews are being very patient. It's as we finally have a nice launch here, we can get really close. The oarsmen very focused inside the boat.
Both boats rowing at 39 right now. They'll come down a little more as the race wears on, as they come off their line. And, you know, the boats are very even at this point, I'd say.
I think Yale has a little bit of a lead. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're moving a little bit.
A little hard for us to tell here, but that could be. That could be. And what can we say about, you know, I would say, Andy, this is, in my view, on the rowing style, is that I think that the Gladstone crews have a sort of more definitive front end, more definitive catch. They get out there and just a little bit more aggressive and sticking the oar and putting early pressure on the blade.
Well, Yale's doing it the Yale way. They're much lower than Harvard. I wouldn't say much, but a beat or two. And they're hitting the rough markers at about 2 minutes. Half a mile. I'd say Yale would have about a third of a length at this point.
Yeah, so I've got Yale at 35.5 and Harvard at 37.
And that's true to form for Steve's crews. He likes them to row long. He doesn't really want to overstroke the opponent. I mean, there's 2,000 meters, there's 2 miles, 3 miles, 4 miles. He never wants to be rowing higher. He likes length in the water.
Yep. Yeah, and I think it's true of Charlie's crews that they tend to row high. You know, he likes an upright style. He likes them to keep picking away at it.
Well, now they're stroke for stroke.
Yep, stroke for stroke, and that's just a great shot. I'm sure the camera's got that right across the coxswains and sterns.
Harvard a little push here.
Little push by Harvard. Yep, they're just eating into the Yale a bit.
I'm very impressed by the concentration from all 16 oarsmen. The two coxswains have to look out and manage their course. But everybody's focused. In a tight race like this, you might be tempted to peek. Everybody's dialed. I haven't caught one guy peeking yet from either school. Very impressive. And as we come alongside the crews, it's about Yale by maybe a deck.
Yeah, I'd say by a deck. It's funny you say that because my coach, Harry Parker, he didn't mind if people took a look. In fact, he'd say, hey, take a look, see where they are, and then take 20 strokes and look again.
Well, but if you're looking out now, it's the same lead for Yale.
Yep.
It's maybe moving up the Harvard bow man on the Yale 2 man, but now Harvard is making a push here, a big push.
So Harvard at 36.5.
So we're not quite yet 4 minutes
Yale
into the race.
At 35.5. Yep, and we're rowing up into the 1 mile mark here. Now this is going to be a very fast 1 mile piece, Andy. You probably know what a crew's supposed to do 1 mile. I don't translate from meters well, but
well, it's 1609 meters, and here we come.
Yeah, so we're going to do this in about 4:15, and looks like Harvard is going through these buoys.
Yes, Harvard made a big push there at the 3:45 mark or so, and they're trying to capitalize on it. Yale has to stay focused and not let them get ahead at this point.
Yeah, so
very nice push from Harvard.
Very nice push.
Continuing to move.
Which is continuing. Harvard now up, 36.5 still, so they've done this with pressure, not with the cadence. And that move seems to still be continuing. So that's we are now looking at 3/4 of boat length about.
Now, what Yale has to do, take a deep breath. They've got to stop Harvard from moving out, regroup, and try to make one last push back into them. They've got to change the tempo of the race at this point.
And, you know, to me,
I think they're doing it.
And that Yale stroke is extremely relaxed, you know, nice, comfortable style. And, yeah, so it looks to me like he's got something in the tank, and it's up to him and the coxswain to say it's time to push it. And,
well, the bow pair has to keep their crew engaged with Harvard.
Yep.
They got to let them know they're right there, still within a length. The Harvard coxswain is almost on the bow ball of the Yale crew.
Yep, but I'm sure she's calling it. And that
was a very impressive, decisive move around 3:45.
Yep, middle of the race.
There's still about 2.5, 3 minutes in this race.
Yep, we're at
still time
at the 6-minute mark. And yesterday, in almost equally nice conditions, the fourth varsities were in the 9:20 sort of time frame.
Yeah, 9.5 minutes. Yeah,
9.5 minute time frame. These crews could be expected to be about 10 seconds faster. Okay, and now we are going through not buoys but stakes. The water's shallow here, and so those stakes are lined up with the line. So
Yale's hanging on just a length back.
Yep.
They're not making any impress back into the Harvard shell, but they're not letting them just walk away. But now's the time. The water's very good in here. It's like a lake.
Yep, and it looks to me like Harvard is stretching it out just a little more. They're just getting a few more inches each stroke. Nothing definitive, but enough to move it. Harvard 36.5, so they have not varied much, even though they're moving into the last half mile. Yale at 35. So I would expect Yale to be cranking it up quite shortly.
Yeah, it's now or never for Yale. If they've been saving something, they should spend it now.
Last night in the Cobby boat race, Yale stayed pretty much throughout the race from the leadership position at 36, and the Harvard fourth boat went up to 41 in a push into them, which made some progress, but nothing near enough.
Well, I'm impressed. This is the silver medalist IRA crew from Harvard. And Yale is making an impression now. They're trying to get close water.
Yep. Yale is now coming back into them.
And they have time. You know, they've got to really floor it. There's a little wash coming in from somewhere.
Sideways wash.
Yeah.
We don't see the source of that. But that will be directly on the side like that is uncomfortable for the crews. Gives them a little wobble.
Well, you're prepared for it, but you don't want to have it happen during the race. Yale is still just one length back.
Yep, one length back, and we are passing the famous rock at Bartlett's Cove, which is all painted blue from last night's combi boat victory. And loaded with
Yale's hanging on.
Yale fans.
They are hanging on.
Exactly one length still. And it's
close water now.
And we're coming up on the finish line. And
all right, Yale's moving.
Yale's moving, but we're down to 10 to 15 strokes in the race. So when you're in that kind of leadership position, you can almost let the opposition move on you. And that's the finish.
I had about 3 seconds unofficially, about a length.
Good for you. So you saw I missed the flag.
Yep. 9:08 to 9:11.
9:11, I got that for their time. So yeah, and that would be about right. Just a little bit less of a length.
Mm-hmm.
And a good time.
Well, if you count if you're counting the three competitions between these three Vs, there have been different lineups to them. Yale took the first one at the sprints, winning the gold medal, beating everybody else in the league. Tremendous accomplishment for them. Very happy for those guys. And then, of course, we made some lineup changes to try to optimize the JV. And then they were finished slightly out of the medals, and Harvard took the IRA distance, 2K. So it was 1-1 in the 2Ks, and now in the 2-miler, Harvard is victorious today. And so Harvard in the we'll call it the second race. The combi race does determine the color of the rock, of course, as we saw in the first race as we came by. But for today's races, the Harvard 3V wins the New London Cup in an unofficial time of 9:08 to Yale's 9:11.